Doctor, would you mind telling the court and the jury a little bit about yourself?
My name is Angrist. I'm a doctor of medicine.
Now, why are you here testifying, Dr. Angrist?
I'm here today to testify about my conclusions regarding where Mr. Ramirez was when he was shot by Officer Waldman, according to my examination of the patient and my knowledge of pathology.
Thank you, Dr. Angrist. Now, pathology, that might be a little bit of an unusual subject to a couple of people. Do you mind telling us what pathology is?
This is the study of diseases and injuries and how they affect the human system.
Thank you, Dr. Angrist. Now, if we turn over to your educational qualifications, what have you qualified as and where did you get those qualifications?
I did a Bachelor of Science at the University of Wisconsin. Then I did my medical certificate at the University of Chicago Medical School. Then I did my internship with pathology at Northwest Medical School. And finally I did my residency in clinical pathology in the University of Chicago.
Now, after you left the University of Chicago, what did you do after that?
I've been a consultant for 4 major hospitals and have written over 200 publications primarily about heart pathology.
Thank you, Dr. Angrist. Now, if we could shift forward to the time when you first met Mr. Ramirez, could you tell us why you met Mr. Ramirez and what you were asked to do for him?
I met him to examine his wounds.
Okay. Now, in formulating your opinion and your conclusions about where Mr. Ramirez was, what sort of authorities did you use and what facts did you use for your conclusions? Did you just look at Mr. Ramirez's wound, or were there other documents that you used in formulating your conclusions?
No, I didn't just look at Mr. Ramirez's wounds. I looked at all the records that the hospital had kept.
Okay. And were there any noteworthy things about the record that the hospital had kept and your personal examination?
Well, there were a couple of unusual things about the shot wound. The scar, when I examined it, had rough edges around it. This is unusual for a shot at such short range, as the scar would have been smaller and rounder if Mr. Ramirez was still at the time.
So what does the scar tell you about the injury and where Mr. Ramirez was?
Well, the skin on Mr. Ramirez's back would have been moving when he was shot, so it is consistent with his story about getting up when he was shot.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Angrist. Now, hypothetically, if Mr. Ramirez was standing straight up like this, say, and Officer Waldman was standing behind him with his gun, say, pointed sort of like this, just straight on, and Officer Waldman shot Mr. Ramirez, would the scar have been any different?
Yes, the scar would have been smaller and without the jagged edges that Mr. Ramirez's scars had.
Thank you, Dr. Angrist. Now, if we turn to the entry of the bullet into Mr. Ramirez's body, can you show me where it entered to on me?
So the bullet entered in his back about here.
Yep. And
it came out through his heart here.
Oh, okay. But from the record, it didn't actually come out of the body, it lodged in his heart, didn't it?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah, that's fine. Now, that meant that the bullet would have had to have been travelling on a downward angle, wouldn't it?
Yes, the bullet was actually travelling on a diagonal angle, and the bullet fragmented, and the main fragment went diagonally into his heart. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Angrist. Now, you've heard Mr. Ramirez's story about how he was getting up off the ground and sort of rolling up and getting up when Officer Waldman shot him. Would the path of the bullet be any different?
The course of the bullet would be consistent with what Mr. Ramirez's story was, as Mr. Ramirez would have been shot from above in the back while he was getting up.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Angrist.